Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Tube Talk.
After 2 weeks away.
After 2 weeks of being away, after multiple bouts of sickness,
We're still sick.
still sick, and a holiday away, we are back to Tube Talk.
I said it was man flu, but it wasn't.
It wasn't man flu.
It was real flu.
It wasn't real flu. It was a
But
freaking chest infection.
It was, but I had to come back to work because it's just can't stay at home watching cooking shows anymore. We all either cook. There's pasta,
And ice cream.
there's ravioli, and ice cream. And they ravioli and burnt butter sauce and ice cream. They go, what should we cook? I don't know. And they think about it, and then that's all they ever cook. So if I have to watch another cooking show with ravioli with burnt butter sauce and ice cream,
He's gonna lose it. That's why
I'll
he needs
lose
to come
it.
into work. Can you just
I'll
turn
lose
your chair? Yeah.
This way?
Perfect. That's
So-
perfect.
there's my rant about cooking shows.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now we can talk about racing.
This week we have got 8 runners.
Yeah, so spring is kicking off. Like we haven't had a lot of runners so far, and the tracks are still wet, and the horses waiting in the wings. Only had sort of 1 or 2 runners a week, and so this is the first week where we've got a number of runners, which is exciting. But the tracks are still pretty wet, and and some bad draws this week. So a few things could trip us up, but we'll see how we go.
Awesome. And if you hear some scuffling in the background, that's just Kate doing the papers.
And Kate's the one that's got me into watching all the cooking shows, aren't you, Kate?
There you go, Kate.
Right, you keep stuffing, Kate. She's stuffing on
She
blocks.
made some cupcakes today, didn't you?
She did. She made it with coconut icing. It's delicious.
Nice one. Not ice cream. Note, hashtag originality. Thank you. Okay, so we will start off this week. On Friday in Waikato, race 2, we've got Seize the Moment Fresher.
Yes, a very good horse, very consistent horse. One of the most genuine horses in the country. 4 times stakes placed last season. He doesn't often not run in the first 3, so it's cool to have him back. But he's got a massive weight to carry. He's got to carry 60 kilos fresh up on what's probably going to be a slow track. That shouldn't worry him too much, but the second horse in the weights is carrying 56. He's got a lot of weight to give away, so I think it's very hard for him on Friday to win. But he's such a competitive horse. He'll run well. I can see him running well. But as I say, very tough for him to win. Danielle Johnson rides.
Nice one. And also on Waikato, at Waikato on Friday, we, in race 7, the rating 65-1400, we've got Water Diva, who is a doubtful starter.
Yes, a promising start, a horse on the way up. We like her a lot. We think she'll be very good over ground, and she's come up well. But the track's going to be wet. It's probably going to be slow, which means she won't start. She's no good really on anything worse than dead. And the 1400 metres will be a little bit short for it, and she's drawn barrier 14. So a lot of things against her, which means that she's ultimately going to be a doubtful starter. If the track got back into dead 5, she'd run, but I think it's unlikely. And if she does run, it's just a blowout for her. It's a first step.
Okay. And then Friday night at Singapore, we've got Billy Mojo in Class 4 and the 1,100.
Yeah, metres on the poly track. And look, we thought he'd go quite well fresh up, and he didn't. He just sort of there, and he faded, and it was a bit disappointing. But this week, we've trialled him since in Sidewinkers, which is what he raced in New Zealand. He's trialled well in those. We've got Michael Rod on board, which is a big plus. He's a very good jockey. It's definitely a step up from our last jockey, Baron Vorster. So we're happy about that. Barrier 4, he should be able to sit pretty handy, I think, and expect to see a much better performance from him on Sunday. It looks a pretty competitive field on Friday night. 3:20 in the morning. Looks a pretty good field, actually, but if he can sit handy, expect him to go a way better race than last time.
Nice one. And I was just saying before, Class 4, never had to say that. That sounds quite cool.
Yeah, well, it's usually rating races, isn't it? But
Yeah.
yeah, it's Class 4.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's at top of Class 4 in Singapore.
Okay, and on Saturday at Hawke's Bay in race 4, in the rating 85 mile, we've got Thorn Pass, who has drawn barrier 9.
Yeah, so Hawke's Bay on Saturday, $40,000 minimums, and I think it should be $40,000 minimums every Saturday in New Zealand personally. Used to be the old $2 million Kelp. It's the Livermore Classic Day. It's going to be a slow track, possibly even bordering heavy, and that is going to make it a difficult day But Thorn Pass was unlucky last start. Much better run than his form indicates. He got checked a couple of times, and I think going up to a mile on a slow 9 track will suit him. He'll probably get back because he's drawn wide, but as long as he's got clear room in the straight, I think he can run a nice race, and a far better race than his odds will suggest that he will belie, and I think he can run a nice race. I think he's a stayer, so when he gets to 2,000 metres and further, he's going to be better. But I think he's an outside chance on Saturday at good odds. And Kelly McCulloch rides, who rode him last start.
And another thing I was saying before is ratings.
Yeah.
And I was like asking about how high ratings go on. I just found that kind of interesting as well, classes and ratings.
Yeah. So ratings, horses are rated on their performances, and the higher the rating, the better the horse in general. So yeah, it's like Seize the Moment, he's rated 98, so he's pretty high up there, and I think he can certainly go over 100 this year.
That's awesome. I just found it really interesting. Okay, and also on Saturday at Hawke's Bay, but in race 10, we've got Ivy Gold in the rating 65 mile, who has drawn barrier 18. Yeah,
a series of bad draws for us on the weekend. Ivy Gold, I don't think a slow track will bother her. I think that'll be okay. Barrier 18, in some ways it's not too bad because the mile shoot is such a difficult start. If you're drawn sort of on the inside or middle barriers, you can actually get squeezed and go back. So from outside, she's going to be able to go forward and sit handy. So that's probably not too bad for her, and a great stake, $40,000, and she can be competitive on Saturday. Probably a lot depends on the first 300 or 400 metres of the race, how much work she has to do before she can get across.
And on Canterbury at Saturday, we've got our first 2-year-old of the season running, and this is Major Issue, who I haven't heard of before.
Yeah, Jimmy Shoe filly, so that's really exciting, having our first baby step out. So it's only an 800 metre race, and she's got barrier 11 of 11, which is a bit frustrating, which isn't the best, because 2-year-olds, when they start racing, they like to have other horses around them, so if you're out wide, it can be a bit tough. So we weren't too pleased about that, but her trial was good. She's improved since, and we're only racing her because she's ready. She's put her hand up and told us. Like, if she'd said she wasn't ready, we would have put her out to the paddock. So we're really looking forward to her, and she can run a nice race. And if she does run well, we'll look ahead possibly to the Welcome States listed race and Cup Week for her.
Nice one. And then, fresh up, also on Canterbury at Saturday, we've got Sadler's Rock in the rating 75 mile. Can you just turn a little bit towards me?
Yeah, so, and he's probably no chance. He's got to carry 62 kilos. With Darren Chin's on him, and he'll claim 3 kilos, will bring his weight down to 59 kilos. And he's drawn out again in barrier 11, but he's never gone any good at Riccarton. A mile's too short for him. He's got a big weight. There's pretty much no chance, but he's got to have this run to be ready to race in 2 weeks' time, in a race that we've got panned out from over 2,100 metres. So that's why he's running, and he is coming up super. I can see him running a cheeky race and being there for a long while, and maybe just being out sprinted in the straight. But he's probably not a betting proposition on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. And finally, our last runner for this week is Mahia, who is running on Sunday at Waipa in the rating 65, 1,400 metres.
Interesting runner, really interesting runner. I think he's the smoky for the weekend. I know his form doesn't look good, but he's won at Waipa before. 1,400 metres is his best distance. He's had a few little issues and he needed his last run. And he's barrier 4 with Michael McNabb on board. I don't think it's the strongest field in the world. And I think he is I think he's a real smoky chance on Sunday. Real smoky chance. Heavy 11 track, it might dry a little bit, but a heavy track suits him. So he's got a few things in his favour.
And finally, our last horse for the week, which isn't ours, but it is the bet of the week, is...
And our bet of the week's been going good. Our bet of the week is...
Kaching, who is running on Friday at Moonee Valley in the Stud Stakes.
Yes.
Race 5.
So she's a 3-year-old filly by So You Think in Moonee Valley on Friday night. She's got the outside barrier in the Stud Stakes, but she's the kind of filly that you just leave alone If you leave her alone, she'll come into the race late. And Moonee Valley is actually a sweepers track. It's if you get back, you can hunt up and behind them, and you can slingshot out, and the leaders tend to stop. And I think she's very, very promising. And I think she'll probably be paying about $7, $8, $9. And she is my bet of the week. Moonee Valley Friday night, catching each way so thankfully. Get on.
There we go.
See if we can continue a good run.
Good run, I get it. Okay, so those were all of our horses for this week. Good tube talk. Hopefully we can be back next week as well.
We'll be back next week, and hopefully I won't be ranting about cooking shows or anything like that. We'll be
and
focused.
hopefully you'll be better.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Soph.
Thank you, Albert. See you guys next week.